Everything must change.
Str8out University, Big John is the host with the plan. Time to wake the sleeping giant that lives in every man. Forget the ordinary path, that blueprint's outdated. We building legends here, totally self-created. You need the 4 pillars for total fulfillment. Money, muscle, frame in the game, that's the mission. Master your finances, forge your body and mindset. Level up your influence, make them all respect. Yet, stop settling for a life that's just a faded dream. Time to build your empire, make your own world shine supreme. This is the goal, let's get to work. Yeah, Str8out University.
Cuba, mi gente, how's everybody doing today? I hope you had a great weekend, and we are here in Sunday fun day. Check it out. Got my guest on, Jess from the Unpack Mindset. I'll be bringing him on in just a second. I just kind of wanted to give you a rough shot what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about 2 subjects. Things are a little bit hot today out there. One of them is about Canelo Alvarez making the assertion that Ryan Garcia is not Mexican, but he's American Mexican, and there's a difference in the two. And then we have Sophie Cunningham, WNBA basketball player, who started talking about, she was asked a question about Title IX, which is a government law that says that women will get, equal opportunity in sports and so forth. But now is being, I don't even know how to really describe it, but when you have a transgender men or transgender people, men who are participating in women's sports, there seems to be an unbalance there as far as obvious unbalance of strength and so forth. So she was in favor of that, saying that, Title IX is something to protect women and young girls in sports. And I got a little bit of, it got a little heated, and now there's a whole controversy about that. So we're going to jump into that. So let me go ahead and bring up my guy, Mr. Jed. How are you, sir? As a matter of fact, I got a little thing here I wanted to throw out at you. I was playing around with this. As everybody knows, I am technically challenged, but check out what I found on this thing. Check that out. I did that all by myself, my man. And let me tell you something. It took some time.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Please introduce yourself, my man.
Hey, how's it going? This is Jesse from the Unpack Mindset. Man, I'm happy to be on here and talk about this whole Canelo and the Cunningham WNBA player. Man, those are some hot topics, bro. I'm kind of happy that you picked them because I had a lot of stuff to say, but then you get a lot of things that cross your mind and they kind of go away throughout the day, and you're like, man, what was it? What was I going to talk about? What was I going to say? So I kind of brainstormed a little bit, I brainstormed, and every now and then, man, it's crazy how you just get these celebrity athletes, I guess, if that's a good term. You get these celebrity athletes that go full corporate, and then they want to decide they want to tell people who can be Mexican and who can't be Mexican. That's funny, man. That's funny, right?
Well, I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, and you know what? Let's tackle the Sophie Cunningham thing first, because let me tell you something. That's a real issue because, I used to coach sports, much like yourself, coaching sports and
right.
so, but I coached boxing, and I coached both men and women, and I was decently successful at that. I had a male fighter who was California Golden Gloves champion 2 years in a row. And then I had another fighter, same weight class, 170, 178, 175. He was also California Golden Gloves champion. I came close to having a national Golden Gloves champion for the men's division. He participated in the Olympic box off and so forth. And then I had a female fighter, and she won like everything. Like she was the #1 female fighter in the United States for 4 years running, and she even obtained a world ranking. So that was a special thing for me because I was able to coach. But let me tell you something. Even though my female fighter was way more successful than my male fighter as far as accolades, I never would ever put my female fighter in there with a male with a transgender. I'll be honest with you, man. It's just too different. Especially in the heavyweight division, because she fought in the heavyweight division. And let me tell you something. Those guys are, the heavyweight division. I mean, these guys are wrecking people. But let's get into the Sophie Cunningham thing. Let me pull this up. I had some wanted to get your ideal on some of these things. Let me Let me find it. As I've said before, I'm technically challenged, so please bear with me. Where's it at? As usual, I always got my problem. There we are. Share screen. What is it? Here we go. I'm going to share this thing. And where's that at? Here we go. Sorry about that. I'm a little off key. Let's check this out.
On that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think it's common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah. Do you see your advocacy on that, like taking any form going forward?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
You know, if I could be first in this, she said something that's completely 100% on point, which is if you have men in women's sports, you would never hear about women in women's sports, because we are so different biologically when it comes down to sports. Now, I'm not saying that women can't play sports, but as men, we're just built differently. You know, I mean, and we excel in certain physical things. And, you know, I do believe, like I said, I've had female fighters, and I know that even though they were sound fighters, I would never put them in there competitively against a man. But I think she lays that in there, but she also says it very eloquently by saying, look, I'm not trying to be political about it. I'm just saying I'm in support of Title IX, which protects women in sports. And I agree with her, man. I don't know. I don't understand what the big problem is. What do you think?
Well, you know, I'm for, equal rights, right? But I'm in agreement with you, man. Like it's a weird. It's a weird, well, how can I put this? You know, they have all these rules, right, against hormones, right? Like testosterone, performance enhancing drugs. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they have all these rules, right? And they're very strict, and they apply to the women, they apply to the men. But it's okay for a man to compete in women's sports, which is already taking hormones. You get what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
I see a lot of red flags here. Absolutely, you know, men should not be playing with women. But I also feel like, man, if they want to play so bad, why don't they have their own division? Why don't they have their own lane? Why don't they create their own league? Why don't they? They got the funding, right? They got the political will. I just don't understand why for me, it's bullying, man. It's bullying. It's an administrative form of bullying, you know, and you're not proving anything by going in there and just using your opponent as target practice.
I agree. And, you know, it's created such a firestorm, right? Like, I mean, it's like people are siding up, man. People are getting on each side of this, and it's like, it doesn't need to be.
It takes away from the spirit of competition.
Got you. Yes.
Right. It takes away from the spirit of competition because, like, as for myself, I've coached baseball for a lot of years, and you train, you work hard, you focus on the smallest details, your footwork, your balance, your foundation, you work on all these cone drills and you know, you want to be light on your feet, right? You want to have good balance. And then you expect the people at the very top to at least be protecting you, you know, to be protecting you and to have some common sense. But it just seems like, how is it that you can have all these rules that make sense, but then you're giving someone else no rules. Like you're just allowing someone just to operate and put other people in danger, you know?
Right. And I don't think people that have never competed they don't truly understand how difficult it is to get to a certain level and so forth, but because they've never competed. But you know what amazes me is the fact that there are people that have competed that are saying, well, Title IX protects transgender women because they feel that they are women, they identify as women. And these are people that are competing, and I'm talking about top level people that are I'm not sure if you're familiar with this person, but her name is Rapino, I believe her name is. She was a soccer player and apparently very good. I don't know. I don't follow soccer at all. So, you know, women's soccer, I just don't follow soccer, man. So I don't know who's who. But apparently she was a very successful women's soccer player. And she was out there saying that she believed that Title IX protects transgender women, and it doesn't exclude them from women's sports. And this is an attack on women. And, you know, I don't understand how we're siding up this way, for the simple reason is that, you know, we can't, I don't understand. Like what you said, you know, it's bullying, but it almost feels like it's weaponizing this conversation that doesn't need to be weaponized. Like you said, let's make a league that's transgender friendly. Right? I mean, why are we doing this?
Well, it's I feel like what triggered the backlash, right, from the left, you know, you got this group that just reacts, right, and everything is anti-trans, and you know, I feel like what made it what was the catalyst that made it that made the right and the left get pissed off was she said something like she extends the love.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that one in a minute. It's amazing you said that. There's a clip.
Okay, so she said something like she extends the love while still defending the girls. And I understand. Don't get me wrong. I understand what she's saying because I believe that she's saying, you know, I don't hate you for you being what you are, but let's make it right. You get what I'm saying? Like she's prioritizing safety over, oh, you know what, you know, getting somebody hurt or possibly killed because you just want to be correct and you don't want to accept the fact that no, this isn't right. Right. You're compromising somebody's safety. You're compromising somebody's safety, and you're running the risk of somebody actually getting killed or severely injured. You know,
right?
We train to compete against our peers. We don't train to. We're not. You know, you want to go in there where it's a level playing field, and 100%. you have it's just you're taking away from that spirit, man. That spirit of competition, and it doesn't pass the stink test for me if you ask me, you know.
Well, definitely. I mean, and I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, we you know, when I was coaching boxers, you know, I mean, you can't even do certain things. Like you can't eat certain breads that have that sesame seed on it for the simple reason is you could test positive for a there's a lot of, like, you can't take certain allergy medicines, you can't take, you know, cold medicines. There are people that have been disqualified for taking a cold medicine because they were sick a couple of days before what they had to compete on, and they were disqualified because they had that in their system. There's a lot of things that you can't take. Why? Because the most minute things can make the difference between winning and losing in the ultimate competitions. You know, when you prepare at such a high level, second, inches, and microseconds all play a factor in everything between winning a gold or even qualifying to compete for a medal. or compete for some national championship or something like that. But you did although there has been backlash on her from other athletes and media, I wanted to bring up this clip by Stephen A. Smith. He used to be a ESPN commentator. Let me bring that guy up. Let's see, here we go. Oops, sorry about that.
Community, because you are not a proponent of them participating in female sports is utterly ridiculous. There's room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone. I truly think when you get people in the same room and you have conversations, you actually have a lot in common with a lot of people. I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women, and I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone. I can't applaud her enough. Sophie Cunningham said every word right on the money. There's no hate involved. There's only love we're talking about. But what happened to loving girls who are born biologically as girls? What about their rights? What about fairness associated to them? Leah Thomas, I'm going to keep bringing that name up. 400th plus in the world competing as a male, transitions to female, and he was number one. If we're going to act like transitioning from male to female doesn't involve an advantage for that trans athlete, I have nothing to say to you. You're not exercising common sense.
I think he hits it on the nose, man.
Yeah, the backlash coming from I want to say maybe I don't know if it's just hyper focused on the trans community, but I feel like it's coming from the media rewarding extremes, right? Like overreactions and victimhood and performative vulnerability and public, everyone's got to, instead of proving that you're right about an issue like Title IX, you want to prove that you're right by having a public meltdown, right. and a clapback.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me. It just sounds like the pushback for this whole having men and women sports. For me, the pushback is nothing but a clapback. It's nothing but it's just an emotional response, man. And I'm not hearing it. It makes no sense, man. If my daughter was playing, it was boxing, or if she was in a contact sport like that, I would never let her fight a man.
100%.
No way.
But you're right, Jess. I mean, you're right about that, man, because it almost feels like it's people aligning how to be victims because they want to take up this cause that says, "Oh, you're against trans, and you're against people who identify as something." It's like, well, she never mentioned that, she never said that, but everybody comes to these conclusions automatically, right?
It feels like it's expression, but it's not responsibility.
Good way to say it. Yeah,
that's what it feels like. It has nothing to do with self-regulation. It has nothing to do with accountability, man. It has nothing to do with resilience or the tolerate. You're basically letting the world know when you react emotionally about this issue, you're letting the world know that you can't tolerate discomfort when it comes to men competing in women's sports.
Right, because you can't even dial in on this, because when you do, like, what I mean by dial in on it is like we can't look at what people are saying under a microscope because it falls apart so quickly. I mean, it just completely unravels, like the position that they're taking and so forth about, the offense and how this is bringing on a hatefulness toward a particular group. And then you start to observe it and you unpack it a little bit, and you start to really analyze what they're saying. It all just falls apart like a thin piece of paper in water. It just falls apart because it just can't stand any scrutiny or any kind of question to the validity of what the argument is.
Well, it's also coming from the right, though. Like I've been hearing on a few conservative, not just the left media. I've been hearing they're just saying that she wasn't strong enough against it. But really, what what the right wanted was for her to say, F the trans community, and
Right.
they're effing crazy, and they're this and they're that and they're this and they're that. But I feel like the way she's handling it is good.
Yeah.
She's being professional about it. She's calling it out for what it is. But like I said, dude, like, I'm an equal opportunity type of dude. So if they want to go ahead and have their own division and play the game, do it, man. By all means, do it. But
100%.
I feel like there's just something wrong, bro.
Yeah.
For a man that's so convinced that he's a woman that wants to go in there and punch another woman. I don't know. It just doesn't compute with me, man. It really doesn't.
Well, like the swimmer that was being said, that Stephen A. Smith said, two things he said that really stood out most for me, which was the first part, which is, he pointed out how Sophie Cunningham said that she's not political about this. She's not trying to be political. And that's one. So I understand the left being upset with what she's saying, but I understand how the right is saying that she didn't go in hard enough, because she is saying, look, I'm separating myself from that. I believe this Title IX. I believe this law that helps protect biological women and in those spaces. And, and I'm like, okay, and Stephen A. Smith goes on to say that, that he I'm sorry, the second point. I forgot the second point, man. I was thinking of 5 other things, but we lose control of those things every time we make it political. It poisons the well when we make everything political.
Well, Title IX was, from my understanding, I'm starting to the focal starting to turn on, but from my understanding, Title IX was created to protect women in sports, right?
Yes.
Or it was kind of like the foundation to create a lane for women to
equal playing field that they got the same money.
And what you said, piggybacking on what you said, you're compromising Title IX now. You're basically compromising it, because it's pretty much null and void, bro. Because Title IX was created so women can have professional sports, compete against each other.
Yes.
And now you're taking men and you're putting them in there with the women. And so why do you have Title IX?
Well, I think that there's a lot of problems with like I said, whenever you start getting into the conversation, the arguments start to fall apart, because the opportunity that Title IX created is now being hijacked by people who want to abuse what the language says and make it something that it was never intended for. Because back in I want to say 75, it could be earlier, when Title IX was created, it was created with that in mind, exactly what you just said, which was to have equality for women to play sports in all sectors, professional and amateur, and that they receive the same kind of money to fund those sports as the men's sports. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it was created. But now you have this hijack thing where people are saying, well, wait a minute, I think that I am a woman and I identify as a woman, so now I can compete in there. And if you don't let me, that's violation of Title IX, because you're not allowing me as a woman to compete against other women. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
You're diluting it. You're diluting it, man. You're diluting it, and you're taking you're creating what do you call it? Exclusions, right?
Yes.
You're creating exclusions because somebody feels like they're being left out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And it's just like, look, nobody wrote that law. And every law is a living document. Every law is a living document, because everything changes over time. Things maturate into other things. Like, look, nobody thought about this back in the early 70s. Nobody thought about this in the early 70s. Nobody thought about that kind of. So now we're here in the 2000s and we have this new ideology, but we need to be, the easiest way that some people look at it is, let's look at it from biological differences. A man who identifies as a woman biologically is a man. And that's the ideology behind it. There's two genders, men and female. That's it. Well, that Title IX and how it's written doesn't address it exactly, other than saying women, men. That's it. Not who
Right.
you identify as. So I think that's why it's been, like what you said, and great word, it's been hijacked.
It's been hijacked and it's being compromised, and Title IX was created to create a lane for women to establish themselves and to compete against themselves, and to get that level of professionalism in different sports, right? And to poison the well, like you said, that's what's happening. You can't compromise safety, man. And at the end of the day, you can't compromise safety. And who's going to want to watch? I mean, I'm not trying to pick on the WNBA because I don't really watch it that much. It doesn't attract me, and I know it's slowly growing. But by
How dare you?
but by compromising it, it's going to make me not even want to watch it at all. I'm already knowing it's not a level playing field. That team has a bunch of dudes on there, and they're playing with a whole team.
Right. And I heard this
Take away anything from the women either. It's just
but things are so ridiculous in some of the conversations that I've seen, and I wish I would have had it. I didn't think about it, but there was a protester that was talking about, against people who want Title IX to just only be for biological women, and make that distinction. And here's a person who was saying, they gave him some abstract thought about saying, okay, let's put you in a different world. If Mike Tyson wanted to compete against women in boxing, you would let them. And this person goes, yes, why not? If they identify as a woman.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you know what it is too. It's not complicated, bro. It's not complicated. And so when people try to make it more than what it truly is, it gets to where it's like, biological, these are facts, right? Biological sex affects athletic performance, bro. Women's sports exist because those differences matter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, this is common sense. This is just it's like you're running into an effing wall, bro. Sometimes you ask me questions, but I know the question, it's so plain to see, and I'm not trying to put some intellectual spin on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's a tomato, it's a tomato, it's a tomato. What do you want?
6'7", 6'7".
It's not a grape. It's not a potato.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Title IX protects those differences.
Right.
And the reason Title IX exists is because there's differences. You feel what I'm saying? And if you erase that category, you erase the protection. So it's just you're beating a dead horse, man, on this one. Like they're I don't know why people are having such a hard time with it.
Yeah, the argument is I want to go back to something that you had said before. Then I've used this before ever since I heard you say it, because it was such a great phrase, the victim Olympics.
Right.
It's like, okay, people just, they want, what I trip out on the most is how people will sit there and then take the conversation and then throw it off into the stratosphere where it has nothing to do with what we're talking about anymore. Like we're often in a different world arguing about something that we didn't even bring up. I mean, there are biological facts between us. And I want to say, I should have thought about this clip, but I didn't. John McEnroe, very famous tennis player, made the comment when it was addressed to him that Serena Williams, who is by far one of the best tennis players in the world, he made a distinction and said that she is the best female tennis player of all time. And they said, well, why can't she just be the best tennis player.
She's not.
She says because she would get dog walked if she went in there against a guy. And just everything blew up for him and everybody was mad about that. But even Serena Williams herself said, absolutely not. I cannot compete with any of these guys. Like the 100 and something guy, 200 and something ranked would dog walk me. And everybody, when they heard her say that, because it started to become a big controversy, when they heard her say that, they ignored what she said. And it's like, but we categorize people in things once the argument fails. Like I have this woman, let me she's taking what Sophie Cunningham said, and then she's giving her opinion of what she had said, which is what we saw earlier. Let me bring her up here. Right there. Tell me what you think of this.
Number one, there is no such thing as a biological woman or a biological man. You have to stop saying that. It literally is incredibly ironic as a WNBA player that you would believe that. It just makes no sense, because literally the reason why the WNBA exists is because it's been refuted that there is no biological notions that are connected to gender. Because if they continue to believe that, you would be in somebody's kitchen, not on somebody's court. Hello, believing that there's a biological man or a biological woman and that men behave in a particular way and women behave in a particular way is why you need Title IX, is why you need protections to actually get equal pay and equal opportunities. Because these losers will say men are stronger, more interesting, you demand a bigger audience. They will connect everything to biology. It's nonsense, okay? That's number one, little Joanne Kathleen Rowling. Number two, is this you? As a UFC girl for game, what was it? 329 or tournament 329? I don't know how UFC works. But the headliner, who was the headliner? Oh, could it be Conor McGregor, the accused abuser and rapist? More than once? Could that be the person as early as 2025 is coming out of court? But you want to do what? You want to protect women and girls? Didn't seem to have an issue when you were asked to be a UFC girl of a game that's being headlined by a literal accused abuser of women. Contradictions with transphobes are truly astounding.
Again,
it's all performative.
Arguing points that were never brought up. I don't even understand the correlation when she says, the biological men want you to be in the kitchen making you a sandwich. No, that's not what Title IX was. Title IX was for equal opportunity to play sports in both amateur and professional sports. But the second part, which is really astonishing to me, is that she wants to take something that Conor McGregor did, the UFC guy, fighter, and he's being accused of. Now, I don't know anything about it. I didn't read about it, but apparently there's some assault charge on him or something like that. But, here's the thing. Sophie Cunningham wasn't at the UFC where she played a ring card girl for one of the rounds or something like that. And she wasn't endorsing Conor McGregor's actions outside of the ring. She wasn't endorsing that, because if we're gonna make that kind of weird jump, then what about the WNBA players who are accused of assaulting their partners? So by wearing the WNBA shirt, is she now endorsing those players that have assaulted and have gone to jail for assaulting their partners? I mean, do you see the kind of asinine discussions that we wind up getting into when we're trying to play this whataboutism?
People take a real situation and they they turn it into a culture war, man.
Yeah.
They do. They turn it into a culture war. There's no boundaries. No boundaries. The minute she started talking, bro, just 30 seconds into what she was saying, I knew right away she had no boundaries. There's no right. There's no wrong. You can't, I don't know if you ever heard that saying, never argue with, I'm not going to say what type of person, but, never argue with a person like that, because they're like pigeons. I mean, never play chess with a person like that because they're like pigeons. You could be winning, and they'll still shit all over the board.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's those type of people that I really avoid, because you're not gonna win the argument because it's their culture, it's their performative, clap back. I'm gonna just say something to look good in front of everybody, and they're not gonna prove anything to you. She didn't prove anything. She didn't say anything to me. I was just kind of like, wow,
to make such horrible connections to something that never happened and something that was never said. Like just recently, again, Sophie Cunningham now they're trying to drag her into being, oh, you're for this guy who assaulted or is allegedly assaulted somebody. Now they have this other guy who put this thing out now. Just because Sophie Cunningham is for that, which is a question in which he said, I'm for Title IX. So now Sophie Cunningham is considered to be a MAGA Barbie. And that, she's both loud and wrong on trans women in sports. Now, this is the part that actually bothers me for this reason. You can't sit there and have people do things like this and associate you with people that you're not associated.
She said, why? I feel like part of the reason the backlash is so loud with Sophie is, if I'm correct in what she said, oh, I love everybody. I support trans people, but women's sports, they need boundaries. So when you're kind of throwing a lot of nuance out there, you're stepping into the culture war.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? You're kind of like stepping into the culture war, and they're going, well, wait a minute. If you love us, then you got to go by with what we believe.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you did kind of step into a pile of, by saying certain things, when she should have just said, I'm for equal rights, equal opportunity, but I do believe that Title IX is a good thing. I believe in supporting women, women need protections. I just think that her wording and the way she said things kind of threw her into a big, she's in a situation.
Well, it is plain Jane as she said it. I'm not into politics. I believe that everybody is, everybody should have love and all this stuff. And she kumbaya'd it big time. Right. They still are dragging her into conversations, kind of like the straw man, the straw man conversations, which is, you make a great point, but I'm going to argue something that you didn't say because it betters my position on something that you didn't say. So I'm going to argue for that. And that's the straw man. And that's what's happening. As a matter of fact, it's so diluted that that I saw this, and I saw this post and I thought to myself, and this is a person who played high school and college basketball. And I know them personally, and they're involved in the school system. As a matter of fact, they're a counselor in the school system. And this is a person who tells people, like young kids, and helps form those kids' minds. And this is a post that they had. And I'm rather disturbed about the post. The post here says, in the United States, your child is way more likely to die in a shooting than they are to lose an NCAA title to a trans athlete. We are policing the wrong things. Now, the part that pisses me off the most about this is that's completely asinine to say, look, your kid has a more likelihood chance of being shot than losing a scholarship or losing a national title or losing some sort of benchmark in their lives because of a trans athlete. So I did my research, man. you know, I did my research because I was hot. I ain't gonna lie to you, Jess, man. I was hot about this because I'm fucking pissy about it. Okay, because I've coached women. I know women who play sports, and I'm pissy. So what I did was I did a little research, and I found this woman that I follow actually, and she did some of the research, and I checked it also. I double checked it just to proof it, and she's accurate. So let me bring her up here. Sorry about that. Here we go. Here we are.
So let's start off with Peyton McNabb, who was knocked unconscious. She had a brain bleed and partial paralysis because a boy was playing volleyball in her league and she got spiked in the head and her career was over. Or how about Fallon Fox, who broke a girl's orbital bone and caused her to have staples in her head in the MMA ring because Fallon's a biological man? Or how about the multiple high school students with broken teeth, concussions, and forced forfeits because they don't want to put themselves at risk playing against boys who are very much stronger than them? And as we just covered, have caused a lot of physical damage to girls in sports. Or how about the UN, who reports over 600 female athletes that have lost more than 890 medals to males in women's categories? There was even one US compilation that put the gold medal theft at over 1,900 just in this country alone. You're talking scholarship, roster spots, All-American honors, just gone because you want dingleberries in girls' locker rooms. And the irony is that Megan lived the physical reality in 2017 and still pretends that it doesn't exist. Sophie Cunningham gets it. Half the freaking country gets it. The only ones that are still pretending that they don't get it are the ones that would rather sacrifice fairness and safety than admit biology is real.
Yeah, I love that. I love that scene. But it's true. What she said was absolutely true. And there was a study that was done by the United Nations General Assembly, and it was called The Violence Against Women and Girls in Sports. It was a study that was done by that particular organization, and it was presented in the 79th session of the UN General Assembly in October of 2024. It goes on to read that that the medals and competitions in the report stated on March 30th, 2024, that over 600 female athletes and more than 400 in more than 400 competitive different sports and 890 medals in different sports due to the policy permitted male-born athletes that competed against female category. And the impact on it was that that women were losing at the podium for the simple reason is that biological men were competing against them. Now the report did go on to resource its data and so forth. And what she said is absolutely correct. Her numbers are right because that came from the UN sports or the UN organization that saw that female violence in sports. And you know, that's what pisses me off a lot about how people talk about, you know, we're policing the wrong thing. Like, you know, my friend posted that thing, and it's like, look, we're not policing the wrong thing. We're actually saying that women are losing in sports. There are women, there are young women that are looking to do. There was a woman out of Texas, young woman out of Texas, 17 years old. She was going to become the first 4-time high school wrestling state champion. Lost to a boy in the finals. So that, think about it, she would have been the first. So now her history and all of those things are now different for her in her life moving forward. And yet we're gonna act asinine in what we're saying. That's the part that bothers the shit out of me the most, man. What do you think?
Well, I feel like, man, you know, it's hard. The first time I heard about stuff like that going on, you know, people losing scholarships, people losing championships, and you know, all the accolades that go with it. I felt like, man, how did this go through? You know, how did they even think that this was the right thing to do? You know, I feel like, what was the lady that you put on the video? What was her name?
Which one? The lady who did the study?
Yeah,
I mean, read about the study. You know what? I dumped her.
Oh, did you?
My fault.
Well, her approach was good because, you know, she kept it science based. She provided the data. You know, if Sophie would have been like, research shows sex-based performance differences, sports categories exist for, competitive balance,
right?
She'd be still saying the same thing, but in a way that feels more natural instead of value driven, right? Instead of stepping into a culture war. It's a PR learning experience. I look at it like that. Like,
yeah,
don't invite the opposite, the side that you disagree with, by letting them know, oh, I love and support them, but at the same time, you're kind of being nuanced about it, right?
Yeah,
you're being nuanced about it. Say what you feel, but say it in a way that is like, hey, you know what? We need competitive balance. Straight up, we need competitive balance. You can't just take something away from somebody that's been working so hard to achieve this level of performance and perfection, only to just strip it away because the what do you call it, the regulating the league wants to be politically correct, right? Or wants to satisfy someone else's, I don't know, ideology. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. For the simple reason is that you have there's so much, for lack of. Go ahead.
It's weird how society is just becoming so reactionary, right?
Yes.
They just wait for someone to die or get killed.
No, but we've always kind of seen that, right? Like we've always seen where they say that people just can't wait for other people to fail, right? And everybody wants to see the shit show, for the simple reason is that they want that person, they want to see them just fall, right? Nobody can handle success. Everybody wants to see that guy who's doing good. They want to see him fall on his ass and totally get decimated, because that's what they want.
Well, it's always bad news travels fast, right? Bad news travels fast.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember before I retired, I would always hear, "Oh, did you hear so-and-so died?" I would always hear about the people that died in retirement, not the people that are doing good.
Yeah, definitely, man. But that's why we're different, right? I mean, that's why we're different. We have in sports, especially in sports. I mean, we're vastly different. But we have all these people who don't want to. They can't reconcile how we're different when you get into the conversation. Like the person I'm going to bring up right now, which I do. I respect this young lady, or I should say this woman, and the things that she's accomplished, who is Clarissa Shields. And she's an amazing boxer. I mean, she has great timing. She has all of these things, but and yet she herself is now deluded in the fact that she thinks that she can compete against the man and actually fight a man. And it's like, don't get me wrong. Do I think that she can box really well? Yes. Do I think that she can hang with the power of a person in her same weight class? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we're here making these arguments now as if they're real, right? Like, I mean, we see this in the movies, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jess. In the movies, we have these women that will fight a man, and they're fighting this, this tough assassin guy, and they're going blow for blow and this and that, and the girl's about $125, and yet that guy's 6 foot or whatever, and 200 and some pounds, and she's doing that whole thing. G.I. Jane, remember G.I. Jane? Remember that movie came out? That was empowering for women, fucking fake as hell, but empowering for women, because there ain't no women on the SEAL team. Why? Because they can't pass the physical. Okay, that's just how things are. But we can live in that movie and be like, wow, that's inspirational. But there's a thing called reality, and we don't even allow people to have enhancements. We frown against that. We have laws and rules against an enhancement. So how do you have a biological man versus a biological woman, and not call that an enhancement?
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I started out with. It's the ultimate enhancement.
Yes. And that definitely bringing it back full circle. Right. You're absolutely right. The ultimate enhancement.
That's the ultimate enhancement. It's you're already 80, 90%. You're 100% ahead of everybody else, to be honest with you.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, it's just, yeah, that's a tough one to wrap my head around.
It is, man. But that's going to be the discussion, man. It's going to be continuing, and I think it's going to grow because a lot of people have, their ideology has become who their identity is, and I think that's why we have a lot of problems in conversations because people can't be wrong and they can't even fathom that what they're thinking is wrong because they live in that echo chamber. And, you know, we that's why we're having so many problems moving forward when we have discussions, because people live in their echo chamber or they say things and they don't want to be questioned. But ultimately, you know, we need to have fresh ideals because we have to understand that, you know, what's his name? Souls. God, I forgot his first name. Thomas Souls. Thomas Souls says this great thing, which is, I know enough. I'm confident enough to know that I know what I'm talking about, but I'm also smart enough to know that I'm not always right. And that's such a great quote because that's what kept me in check when I used to be a steward, because I knew that I could walk in about what I've studied, but I had to be open to new information because something can change, because all documents are living documents, but those are conversations we have to have. But I appreciate you and your, if you can give me your final thought on that one before we move to the next segment.
Well, you know, I'm going to hit on a few points. I feel like competitive fairness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the main concerns. You're talking about speed, strength, power output, vertical jumps, you know, bone density, bro. Bone density, lung capacity.
Yep.
Now, then we go into safety, right? Safety concerns, right? In baseball, you know, the ball's getting hit harder. The ball's traveling faster. You know, you got greater reach, you got greater wingspan, you got stronger upper body force, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the boxers, right? And we touched on scholarship displacements, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of trying to brainstorm here and put it together. You know, you got roster spots that are being taken, brother. You got roster spots,
Yes.
You got scholarships that are being won. You got, oh man, you know, just qualifying times, man. You know, when you got runners, right?
Yeah.
And it's just it's all encompassing. It's an all encompassing problem.
Definitely.
You know, it's not just one sport. It's not just one skill set, man. It's all encompassing. You know, it affects so many people psychologically, man. You got to me it's a psychological and a moral issue too, right?
Yeah.
You know, female athletes, they're, from my understanding, a lot of them don't want to report it. A lot of them don't want to say anything, right? You know, because they're being labeled as anti-trans, and you know, it's a frustrating thing, right? It's a frustrating thing because they're facing this political pressure. Right. And I can only imagine you got to be motivated, and you got that part of you in you that's kind of working against you, right? It's trying to make you, it's almost like you got to compete, but you got to be numb to the fact that you might be fighting or competing against a man.
Well, you know, we have this thing, right, in boxing that guys will get in there like as a coach, you know, you have to protect the fighter from himself because he's willing to go in there and die.
Oh yeah.
Doing. And, you know, we talk about the violence of this. Now think about this, you know, my kids played volleyball, you know, and, you know, that's a soft ball, you know, it's not a soccer, man. It's not a soccer ball. It's a soft ball. You know how hard you have to hit that ball to spike it into some girl's face and break her orbital bone? Are you kidding me? That's crazy, right? That's crazy power.
Now, I wanted to ask you, do you believe that the competing bodies for all the sports, like NCAA, and then you got the WNBA, and then you got your competing bodies for high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
For high school, and then Olympic competing bodies, and then you got state laws. And do you think they're all inconsistent? Like, do you think they're all on the same sheet of music? Or do you think that, I'm just curious I'm just wondering, is one trying to override the other and saying, hey, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't do this? I can only imagine that there's court battles right now going on saying, we're the ones that run the show,
Oh yeah. You hit the nail on the head, man, because it's a very small few that are running everybody, because there's a lot of people that disagree with trans athletes competing against female athletes. There's a lot more people that are against it. It's kind of like this. The way I look at it is this, bringing it back to some politics here, man. Registered Democrats, 73% of registered Democrats are in favor of voter ID, but that's not what we hear. That's not what we hear, bro. So it's the same thing in sports, where you have a small subset of people who are controlling the narrative, because anything that you say is either racist, it's transphobic, it's always something where people are trying that victim Olympics thing of saying, we are now the oppressed, we are now the victims, we are now this. Even though you're not making that argument, they will make you and everything you didn't say part of that argument now. And that's where I think that we are in sports. And I think that that's definitely we are in society, where you said it's performative. It's really performative, man. That was a great word, man. All right, man. Let me jump into this next one, because this one's spicy, man. I actually like this one because I'm
Canelo's at it again, huh?
Canelo Alvarez, cracked me up when he said this. There's a lot of people, but lately there's been a lot of people who have asked that question about, especially now with the whole, the ICE thing going on, and our Mexicanos in favor of ICE picking up, people and blah, 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 and all that good stuff. And then that quote from John Leguizamo, the actor, who said that, that Mexicans are for Trump is like cockroaches for Raid. And it's
isn't he from Venezuela?
Yes, he's half Venezuelan and Puerto Rican. And so here's a guy, and look,
I scratched my head for a minute here. Okay.
I got a problem with it's kind of like, my family. Look, I have heritage from Mexico. And I don't like people that ain't from Mexico talking about people from Mexico, or talking about us as Hispanics, okay, from a certain area. It's kind of like, I don't talk about Puerto Ricans. I ain't going to talk about Cubans, but I don't want you talking about me either. It's kind of like my brother, right? Look, I can talk shit about my brother. You can't talk shit about my brother. And so I was kind of pissy with that whole thing. But Canelo went out and said this thing. And I want to bring it up and get your take on it. Let me bring this up. He was interviewed, and he went on to say that, let me bring this up. He went on to say that Ryan Garcia, he was asked the question, like, would Ryan Garcia or David Benavidez, are they on track to be the next big Mexican stars? And Canelo, in an interview with, God, his last name is Hawani. He's an MMA guy, but I started out as an MMA, but he's a really good interviewer. So here's what he said. Let me bring this up. Canelo's interview on this Ariane Hawani. I know I'm butchering that guy's name. Here we go.
Did you see his last fight?
No, I didn't see.
He could be maybe the next Mexican star, maybe?
Not Mexican.
Mexican American?
It's different.
Yeah.
Mexican American, yeah.
Who could be the next Mexican star? Is there someone that you're seeing right now that could be the guy?
Mexican American, I think Ryan have the possibility to.
Right.
The more possibilities to be. He have a lot of charisma, a lot of talent, and I think he's the next Mexican American. Mexico, we'll see.
Is there anyone right now that you see that?
No, at that level, No, not yet.
Not yet. Is that surprising?
Surprising because
It feels like it's always
always is somebody there after the other.
The next one, yeah.
The next one. But I don't see right now. We'll see maybe in 1 year. We don't know. Always happen pretty soon.
I did see an interview that you did in 2020, and you said when you turned 30.
He goes on to talk about his career. But okay. All right. I see you shaking your head. I see the eyes and the eyebrows, bro. All right, man. Tell me what you think of that.
That's typical Canelo, man. He's a habitual gatekeeper, bro. Straight up. Habitual line crosser, habitual gatekeeper right there. You know, he gatekeeps his fights, and now he wants to gatekeep Grasa, you know. I feel like Canelo, for some reason, he's so damn corny, bro, because he lives part-time in the United States, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? He trains in the United States.
Yeah.
He fights exclusively almost in Vegas, Las Vegas, right? He built his empire through American promotions, American networks, and American capitalism, and charges American level prices for all his tickets, right? Even though he's gatekeeping his fights, and he markets himself globally, right? Not nationally, but all of a sudden he's got an issue with Ryan Garcia being labeled the best Mexican boxer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Golly, man, that dude is so I don't know, man. That guy is impossible sometimes. I can understand why there's a faction out there of Raza that just hates him. I can understand why. You know, it's just I don't think it's right to be so damn disconnected from your own people, and at the same time think that you can say, oh, you know, well, he's not Mexican, he's Mexican American. You know, it just it's a bad look, right? It's a bad look.
Okay. Explain how it's a bad look, because I'm curious to jump into it a little bit more. What do you mean it's a bad look?
Well, you know, you ever meet somebody who can't read the room?
Oh yeah. Right?
That's Canelo. You know, he knows that the audience is looking at him. Well, he doesn't know, obviously, because he runs his mouth, it has no filter. And the way I look at it, it's like, hey, you know, it goes back to these previous conversations that we've had, as far as me being a veteran and as far as me being proud of being Raza. And yeah, I'm a, you know, proud of being Mexican American, but you know, you can't run from your own blood, right? You can't run from what you are, right? Organically, bro, like what you are. You can't run from that. I'm proud. I'm a patriot, bro. Like I love being here. I love being here in this country. I love being American. But you know, I'm proud to be Mexican too. You know, and for someone from Mexico to say, "Oh, he's not Mexican," you know, it'd be like for me to say, "Well, don't ever try to be American either, because I'll never look at you as a real American."
Do you think that it's? Let me drop a little bit of something in there. For example, back in the day when there was a boxer named John Ruiz,
right,
heavyweight fighter, and we were all sitting down watching this fight at a friend's house, and we were all very proud because he was going to be the first heavyweight champion that we called Mexican. Now, he wasn't Mexican, and it was made blatantly obvious to us in that fight from other fans that were all sitting there, because there was a bunch of people at this person's house. There was a group of Puerto Rican guys that were there. Now they were a couple of the kids were born here, but the rest of them were born in Puerto Rico. They came here, and we were like, wow, this guy's, you know, he's going to be the first Mexican or the first, you know, Hispanic or Latino that was going to be, you know, fighting and possibly winning the heavyweight championship.
Right.
And the first thing they told us was he ain't Mexican. And we were like, what? He says, no, he's Puerto Rican. He ain't Mexican.
Mm.
And we were all kind of like, what? And that was actually my first experience in understanding that we could all speak Spanish, but we ain't all the same that way.
Oh, no.
And it was made clear that day that, and that was the first time that I had noticed it. Like, wow, that's kind of a trip. And then, of course, John Ruiz lost, and we said, well, if he were Mexicano, he'd have won, eh? But, that was just us being extra, putting extra sauce on it. But, I understand what Canelo is saying. And when I go to Mexico, they don't consider me Mexican. They consider me American. I have Mexican heritage, but I'm not Mexican. I'm American. Just like I believe I had told you this. I spoke to a guy from Brazil, and I was getting a little pissy because he was all like, Mexicans don't, you guys talk about raza and how you're all this and that, but yeah, you don't claim where you're from. Like you try to be something that you're not. And it's like, well, what do you mean? He goes, look, I'm Brazilian, but I'm an American citizen now, but I'm Brazilian. My kids were born here. So when we go back to Brazil, they're not considered Brazilian. They're considered American. And I'm just like, oh, you know what? You're actually right. So when I listen to Canelo say this, and he says, well, he's not Mexican from Mexico, so he can't be considered a great Mexican fighter because that's a different country. He can be a great American Mexican fighter, which Oscar De La Hoya himself embraced, because that's why they fly both the American flag and the Mexican flag, because they're proud of the heritage. Do you think that it's more that conversation that maybe Canelo didn't fully throw down, like what you were talking about, Sophie Cunningham, not maybe expounding on what she probably meant a little better? Do you think that the same problem could be held of or considered for Canelo?
It's all in the messaging, bro.
100%.
Like De La Hoya, his problem was he was trying too hard to please both sides. I felt like he was trying too hard, kind of like Cunningham, right? Like Sophie, like, oh, I love trans people, right? Like you start stepping into that pile of, you know what, and then oh, you know what, it's almost like you're trying too hard, and when you try too hard to please both sides, you end up looking stupid. You really do. You end up looking like you're not authentic, like you're not who you say you are. I guess maybe me growing up working in construction, working with paisas and working with raza and working with both, I've been able to bridge the shit talking and just the banter back and forth, right?
Right.
And earning respect from raza from Mexico and raza from here. So if I'm going to step outside myself, I'm just going to say, I don't think Canelo's a good advocate for the raza, because yeah, he's from Mexico, but I think he's whiter than Ryan Garcia is in many ways.
And that's through the is that just strictly from the business standpoint?
Yeah, you know how people say latte liberal and all these different things. He's kind of like a latte Mexican, like you're over here trying to gatekeep or cherry pick who can. I get what he's saying, right? I get what he's saying. He's from Mexico. He's from over here. But the look, like the messaging, the way it comes off, oh, he's not Mexican.
Right.
Oh, he's not this, or he's not that. The way it comes off, the way it sounds, it's almost like when George Lopez, when they were talking about that up and coming comedian, and he didn't even want to acknowledge that other comedian. I forgot who it was, but it was a bad look. It looked bad on George Lopez. It looked like you're not a very good person. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have to make that distinction. He really didn't. it's almost like you're dividing. You're dividing that line.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
it's almost like you're dividing. You're setting you're kind of putting your foot in there, and you're saying, no, he's not Mexican. He's Mexican American, but he's not Mexican. You get what I'm saying? And it just who cares?
But wouldn't everybody, for example, I going back to what you said, which was, you know, look at him, you know, he's benefiting from, you know, the American economy. He's benefiting from the capitalism in which we provide here in the United States. But, you know, when Vicente Fernandez goes and he did a concert, didn't he charge the same, you know, he charged higher rates here in the United States, dollar wise? I mean, so wasn't he not taking advantage of that also? I mean, I don't see Canelo saying that Ryan Garcia is a bad fighter. I don't see him saying any American fighter with Mexican heritage. I don't see him saying bad things about them, like they're no good. He talks about them in a positive way. And even though he had problems with David Benavidez, you know, it made me think like, well, is he saying it the same way as George Lopez? Because see, George Lopez was telling venues, do not book those Hispanic, because I'll never come back here. So that's quite different. Like if you're telling me that Canelo is like taking food out of people's mouths by saying, don't book those fighters, don't book this, don't do that. Okay, I can kind of see that as being a thing. But George Lopez was on a whole different fucking universe, because he was literally taking money from people like what was it, Paul Rodriguez and other up and coming Hispanic comedians. He was like preventing them from making money. That's crazy. That, and I agree with you on that. I agree with you. It wasn't a good look.
Do you believe that it's do you believe that that we have an inherent you believe like we can revoke someone's Mexicanness? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
No, well,
whether you're from here or over there,
I don't think that we can take away a person's heritage. I don't think that we can take that away. Only the person themselves can take that away. Like if they don't acknowledge it, if they don't acknowledge that they come from a certain people, yeah, that's possible.
But is your Mexican identity tied to your family, your bloodline, your lived experience, or is it tied to one fucking boxer that wants? Oops, sorry. Is it tied to one boxer that?
Hey, I say it all the time. Wait a minute.
How dare you?
Is it tied to one boxer that wants to say, "Oh, he's not Mexican; he's Mexican American"?
Well, I think that when you look at the history, of things like that, we'll box it into boxing. We have had many great American fighters that had Mexican lineage, and I don't think that any of them didn't embrace their heritage, but I don't think that they shunned who they were as Americans. And that's why, like, when people ask me that question, hey man, what do you consider yourself? Do you consider yourself Mexican American or American? And it's like, well, I'm American with Mexican heritage. Mm-hmm. And they look at me like, oh, well, is your mom from here? Yeah. So is my dad. So is my grandmother.
Right.
It's like, look, we're from here, but I'm very proud of my heritage and who we came from. But I don't, like I said, when I go to Mexico, the first thing they will ask me every single time, where are your people from? Every single time. Where's your mom from? Oh, she's from the United States. But where's your grandmother from? Oh, she's from the United States too.
So,
okay. But on my grandmother's side, she's from Mexico, and so is my grandfather, and blah blah blah. And then they go, oh, okay. Well, we're gonna give you the Mexican discount. And I'm like, orale, seriously. So, like I said, is it something that I'm tied to, so tied that I have to, sit there and declare myself? I don't think so. I don't think so. I understand what he's saying. Like Salvador Sanchez, by far, is one of the greatest fighters that any of us have probably ever seen. Could legends say that? But he's always said this. Not only Canelo, but all the other fighters have said that too. Marquez, Barrera, Morales, Chavez. They've all said it, man, out loud. They've said it out loud. There's Mexican champions and there's American champions that have Mexican heritage.
Right.
So why are we dragging Canelo?
There's two ways of looking at it, right? It's like if you're a boxer from the Dominican Republic and you got another boxer that's Dominican, but he's American from here, and he becomes a world champion, and the other boxers from the Dominican Republic can say, well, he's not Dominican because he's from America, right? But he's full-blown Dominican. You can see it, but it just doesn't. It just doesn't. That whole "you're not Mexican enough" or "you're not Chinese enough" or "you're not Dominican enough" because you were born on on American territory seems kind of like a bad look. It just seems like a bad look. It's
the optics of it, right?
The optics is a bad look. Instead of saying, yeah, he would be one of the greatest Mexican boxers. I don't know. When we used to play competitive baseball and travel ball and we go to these championship games, we took an ass whooping like men, and we shook hands and we walked away.
Right. We
didn't say, oh, well, you guys had a better facility and you guys did this and you guys have this. If we lost, we lost.
Right.
And that was all in the spirit of competitiveness. And I feel like, was that spirit of competitiveness there when he said that Ryan was not Mexican? He's Mexican American.
Right.
I don't know. It's the optics, bro. You nailed it. It's an optics thing,
But why are we dragging Canelo when every other champion has said the exact same thing? Like, look, if we just took it with what you're saying and what most people are saying, that Mexican is Mexican, okay? Born here, born there. Oscar De La Hoya would be in there. So would Johnny Tapia. There would be a lot of Vatos that are in there, okay? There would be a lot of people from America that would be on that list. But yet when you ask a Chavez, Morales, Barrera, when you ask any Marquez, you ask any of those guys, who's the top 5, who's the top 10 Mexican fighters? They don't ever put an American in that. You know why? Because they ain't from Mexico. And they say it. So I don't understand the optics of it. I understand what you're saying about the optics of it, but yet we're dragging Canelo. To me, that's a feelings thing, because there's a lot of people upset with Canelo. Well, first, because he lost to Crawford. Second, he never really gave Benavidez the shot to fight him. And, we love to hate somebody, and we always want them to be, like you said, we always want to see somebody come down. So we're going to do a lot of things that maybe we're not going to give him grace, but we give everybody grace and act like they didn't say it. But every Mexicano champion has said the same thing that Canelo has said.
Right. You look at soccer, though. You look at soccer, right? You got teams from all over the world, but with people from all over the world that don't necessarily come from that country, but they're representing that country.
Yeah.
Do they say, oh, that team is not from the Netherlands because they have 15 dudes that are from Puerto Rico or from Chile or from, you get what I'm saying?
Oh, no, you're making a great point. And because a friend of mine put it out there and said,
that's kind of what I'm alluding to, right? That's what I'm alluding to, right? Like, you have the Dodgers, they're from LA, but half the dudes are from Venezuela.
Right.
LA has the best team.
There was a guy, and ironically enough, from the Netherlands. They asked him, why aren't there any black-looking players on your guys' team? And a friend of mine put a question out there, and he says, everybody is this about, black and white, blah, blah, blah. He says, why is it that on every single team, with the exception of a couple, on every single team, there's what did he call it? An Afro-looking person on that team. And it's like, well, and I thought the guy from the Netherlands said it best. He says, because we don't look at skin color, we look at nationality. And I think that Canelo is saying the same thing. He's looking at nationality. When you say Mexican champions, he's thinking nationality and not necessarily something that's nefarious. I don't think that he's trying to be bad about what he's saying. I think that he's looking at it from a national standpoint, nationality. And I think that that's where it's from.
Yeah, yes. I understand that too. You know, two sides can be right.
Yeah, because he gave Ryan Garcia his flowers, bro. He really just said, look, that guy could be super big. He could be this. And then, you know, he's not really said bad things about David Benavidez other than in business. You know, how he conducted himself. And I just call it out for what I see. Crybaby Benavidez, because that motherfucker cried for that fight. And it's like, bro, he ain't going to give you the fight. Leave it alone. Move on. Go about your career, bro. Don't fucking cry about it. But that's how I think Canelo was pushing it, as just like the soccer player from the Netherlands. We don't look at the color. We look at the nationality. And I think when he says Mexican champion, he's looking at nationality and not necessarily who you are or what you are. Right. American fighters as great fighters, and you have Mexican heritage.
It's crazy how you run into that in all sports, right?
Right. Right.
You do. You run into that same problem, man. People try to bring in their culture war into, you know, that's hard. It's a lot of people that never coached or never managed a team or never put together a club, you know, they don't understand that you're in it for the spirit of competition, and you're not in it to make a political statement.
Right. And that's why I think that, and this is just my thought on it, is I think that Canelo didn't walk the extra mile. Like you said, Sophie Cunningham didn't walk the extra mile that he and she probably should have, or shouldn't have walked it in the first place. So that's kind of how I think about it.
And I'm not taking anything away. Mexican boxers, man, they're the best, right? Like, I mean,
we got a couple good ones, bro. We got a couple good ones on this side.
I'm saying that too, but you know, it's not. There's no shortage. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
There's no shortage, and I think it's a pride thing too. You know, so.
Oh yeah.
So he you know, he was speaking from his heart. You know, and he's like, hey, you know, we need to recognize boxers over here too, and I mean, it is. He's not wrong. He's not. I mean, we can dissect this all night, right?
He's not 100% wrong. He's no, because you're right. The optics of it, what he said, how he said, how he maneuvered within it, he can be critiqued by what he said because he didn't walk the extra mile that probably could have made better sense of it all. But you know, I mean, look, man, he's a fighter. I'm not saying he's the smartest guy in the world, just like Sophie Cunningham. I'm not going to say that she's not the smartest person in the world, because if she would have walked it maybe the extra 2 miles, it may have been better digested. But again, we're dealing with people that want to see them fail and will use anything people say to make them fail. And you know,
and I'm sure you've had this happen where you have a fighter and you got, you know, they have a support system around them, which is good, but the fighter isn't up to par, right? And you know, the parents and maybe the network that he has thinks that he's better than what he really is, and they want him, they want their baby to go fight somebody who's way beyond their caliber.
Yes.
And you got to sit there and be the bad guy and say, hey, no, they're gonna get hurt. They're gonna get killed. You know?
No, you're right. You're right. Because I had an assistant coach at the gym that we owned, and he used to call me the Dream Crusher. And I'm like, why do you call me the Dream Crusher? He goes, man, you tell these guys, like, hey, if you want to go pro, at very best, if you work super hard, you're going to be a decent club fighter. And he's like, why do you tell them that? I said, well, look, I'm not going to tell them that they're going to be in the WBC Hall of Fame. Why am I going to tell them that? I want them to have a clear expectation that is built on obtainable goals. And, you know, because I don't want you to get into something that you may not be fit for. Look, right? Like some of us are never going to have a 36-inch vertical, and some of us ain't never going to be able to deadlift 400 pounds. Right? We are who we are, man.
No. I agree. You know, I used to always get into it with parents when it came to position.
My kid's a superstar.
Playtime and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, you know what? It's a balance, man. It's a balance, right? You especially as a coach, you're trying to develop the athletes, but at the same time, you're not trying to destroy their spirits,
right?
Either. And at the same time, you're trying to be brutally honest.
It's delicate.
It's a
yeah,
man. It's scary sometimes, dude. I swear, I had a lot of people want to kill me and stuff like that, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Like,
well, how did you do it, Jess? How did you tell the parent your kid's not Cal Ripken, your kid's not Ken Griffey, your kid is not the superstar you think he is, but he could be a decent player?
When I got a say like a new kid on the team or someone that was trying out, I would ask him, who taught you how to swing? And he'd be like, my dad. And I'd be like, your dad taught you how to swing like that. Where's your dad at? Let's go have a conversation with your dad. I call the dad over and I said, he's saying that you taught him how to swing like that. He missed about 15 pitches right now.
You did this to him?
He's saying that you taught him how to swing like that. He wants a spot in my lineup.
Yeah.
He can't hit the ball because he's saying that you taught him how to swing like that.
Oh man, Jess, they call me a dream killer, man.
No, because you know what? It's a game of inches, bro. And the way I look at it, you call them out from the get-go.
Yeah.
You call them out from the get-go, right? You know, because you got to be honest.
Yeah.
You got kids that come from different teams, different squads, and they want to play on your team, and you need some basic talent, man, especially when it comes to baseball. You need some basic talent that you can work with. You know, and you know, you got a lot of kids that just can't cut it on any other team, and so I'm all for developing, right? Like developing players, and you know, there was times when I had 2 or 3 when I was running a couple teams, so I had a developmental team.
Okay.
So I had a developmental team, and I would be honest. I would be like, hey, you know what? We're going to go out and play. We're still learning. We're probably going to get crushed, but this is what it's for. You know what I'm saying? And then I would take good players and I'd interchange them and bring them up. I'd bring some down, bring some up. It was just, you're trying to give everybody that good play time, you know? And so it can be a grind though, man. It could be a real grind because you get people that think that their kid is ready to get signed on, you know, at 12 years old. They're ready for the MLB.
Right. The Dodgers are here.
Yeah. You know, they think that the scouts are out there to go watch their 8-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, and it is crazy. It is crazy.
You know, I used to have this saying, you know, and I used to tell people this a lot, you know, especially in the union, but, you know, in sports, it also applies to everything, which is expectation minus reality equals disappointment unless your expectation is rooted in reality. And I always told people that because it was the easiest way for me to tell them that their kids suck. And that's what it was.
You know what it is too? They'll be like, hey, why can't my kid play infield? And I'd be like,
he ain't got a glove.
No, for me, it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
Because he's going to take a line drive straight to the face. He just can't catch the ball. He's still learning. Like he says, react. Yeah, the thing is, you know, like I've coached from like 6-year-olds all the way up to 18-year-olds.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So you've seen it all.
And then I've seen a lot of the players go play college and stuff like that and move on. But you begin teaching the fundamentals at that age, at 6 years old.
Right.
You know, because eventually the ball's going to be coming at you at 102, 103 miles an hour. So you have to teach, I guess in boxing, they call it, you know, when you're telegraphing, when you're, you know, you already going to know based off what your coach has been teaching you.
Right.
You already
to look for twitch movements.
Yeah. So in baseball, it's the same thing. You know, when the pitcher's getting ready, you have a pre-pitch motion. If you ever one day watch baseball, you know, when the pitcher's coming up, all the infielders and the outfielders come set, and then the infielders will take a little jump. Why? Because they're in motion for a 103-mile-an-hour ball to come to them.
Right.
So they're already a little bit of a head. They got a little bit of a head start to react.
Right.
To the ball. They're already in motion.
But people who don't play the sport don't even know, because I'm definitely one of those guys that when a line drive goes past the, you know, the shortstop, I'm like, how come he just didn't move faster to get it? Meanwhile, I have no idea how fast that ball's rocketing past this guy.
Yeah. It's wild, right? And so when say 6 years, you start coaching at 6, and then you're coaching 14-year-olds, and you got a kid that wants to come on the team that really hasn't played competitively.
Right.
And so they're doing everything wrong, that they're just not ready.
Yeah, the fundamentals.
The fundamentals, the footwork, the way they handle the ball, the way they throw the ball. And then that's when you got to tell them, hey, you know, they need a lot of work.
Right. And, you know, but I think that's what makes you mentoring as a coach. You know, there's a reality involved, and, you know, we do that delicate balance of, like, you know, because, you know, there's some kids that you can directly, you know, challenge, and there's other kids you can push, but there's other kids that you have to kind of sit there and go, come on, you know, you got to get up, you stop being down on yourself, things of that nature. So, you know, we're psychologists, we're the, you know, we're mom, we're dad, we're the confidant, we're everything. As a coach, you're everything, man. And that's
when my son played, he played competitively, and I would take him away from competitive baseball, and I would have him play a season of regular recreation ball with his friends, with his boys.
Oh, okay.
Like just his boys, you know, like just the kids down the block.
Yeah.
Right. And I did that so he could not just always be so serious, but where he could be with his friends and really just have fun playing the game.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Because a lot of people get burned out when it comes to certain sports, especially if they do it year round.
And they're young. They start really young.
Yeah. So I would take him away, and he'd have a blast, and he'd be like hitting home runs and doing all kinds of crazy plays, and he'd be like the star on the team. You know what I'm saying? But I did that just so he can just have fun.
Yeah.
And not be so stressed out all the time, you know?
I completely understand that, man. You know, my kid was really good at boxing. Like, I mean, he understood the game. Like, he had an IQ for the game. But you know what he loved? He loved volleyball.
That's good.
I was like, what the fuck? Ooh, volleyball. I didn't even know boys played volleyball. But he was really good at volleyball, and he loved volleyball. And sometimes, like, the boxing coaches, when I'd go to other shows, they'd be asking me, like, hey, do equal? You know, where's your son? Where's your son at? And I said, oh, he's playing volleyball. And they're like, volleyball? And I said, yeah, he does that, you know. So he didn't box year round for that specific reason, because he loved volleyball, and I wasn't going to take that away.
But that's a good father, man. That's not only a good father, that's a good coach. You know, a lot of parents, they live vicariously through their kids.
Yeah, the Al Bundys.
You know,
they live their glory days through their kids. Yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you what. I seen parents that paid a lot of money to have MLB coaches train their kid from when they were young, and all these professional coaches, and they were just forking out thousands of dollars every month.
Yeah.
Right. They get to high school and they don't even make the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
They get to high school and they don't make the team. And I'm sitting there going, like,
yeah,
wait a minute.
That's a lot of money, man. You're right. It's a lot of money, a lot of travel.
All the traveling. You know, wait a minute. What happened? A lot of times you'd be surprised it's the parents.
Yeah. No, I'm a firm believer in talent is talent. Okay. There's no way if a kid is athletically talented.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you're going to really teach them except to it's like sharpening a knife. They're already a knife. All you have to do is sharpen it. That kid's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. But you have those parents that their kids are, you know, just a blunt object. They're not sharp, but they want that kid to, and they will spend all the money in the world for that kid to be that, you know, that razor blade. And they're just never going to be a razor blade.
You never know. I'm sure you've had boxers. I'm sure you've had fighters that have way more potential, beyond potential, but they just don't love it. They don't love it. Yes. And they don't want to do it.
Right.
That's all.
And then you got the other ones that work so hard at everything and they just can't get over that hill and they start to see it. And then that's, you know, like I would tell them, like, hey, you know, the world, you know, discover your opportunities because, you know, you going to a show, you going to fight at these places, maybe you're going to meet somebody who's going to change the trajectory of your life. So don't just put it all on boxing or put it all in sports. You know, learn to schmooze and be good with everybody around you because you never know what avenues are open for you or who you're going to cross paths with that's going to change your life.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, that's a great advice. And I'm sure that you brought up some people and I'm sure you were a dream killer like I was for a little bit because you got to tell people. But Jess, I do appreciate your time, my man. I want to wrap it up. Could you do us all a favor and let us all know where we can find you and what you got going? Go ahead. Floor's yours.
Yeah. Just look me up on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I got a lot of stuff, a lot of good topics that I'm going to be discussing later on in the week. A lot of social issues, man. And yeah, you know, I throw in a little politics, a little bit of crime in there, but I like to speak about things that that kind of take us out of our comfort zone, right? And ask why. Just ask why, right? And yeah, man. So yeah, check me out, and I look forward to putting some more content out there.
Awesome, Jess. I appreciate you, my man, and I will talk to you in just a few minutes. Let me go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks again to Mr. Jess from the Unpack Mindset. This guy is awesome. Let me tell you something. He puts out some things, and you know, I often do this on Facebook where I say things that make you go, And Jess is definitely that kind of person who, when he talks about things, very analytical about what he's doing, what he's talking about, and gives you a perspective that's a fresh side. And he does it in a way that doesn't make you feel, doesn't make you feel like you're questioning yourself, but actually question yourself in a good way. Because I know I'm a little bit different. I like to tell you that you're a fucking moron if you're thinking this way, and that's probably not the best way to get to people, but you know what? That's just the way I do it, and that's what makes us Straight Out University, because class is always in session when I'm telling you what a moron you are. Just joking, kind of. But like I said, I want to thank Jess again for coming out with us from the Unpack Mindset. Please follow him on YouTube and keep us informed about what's happening. Hit the smash like button for the YouTube, and Ninja Watchers. We get a lot of views on the videos, man, but come on, man, you got to get that like, bro. It's free. It's free, man. Está gratis. It's free. Let us know, man, that we're doing, lets the algorithm know that we're doing something good and that it's worth watching. You guys take care of yourself. Have yourself a great week. And I'll be dropping some more videos, and please follow Jess. All right. You guys take it easy. Have yourself a good one.
Everything must change.
Yeah, straight out university, the syllabus begins. Check the complex method that separates the men from the kids. We building with 4 pillars. Study the architecture, the lessons in the verses, not just the lecture. See the mind for the money, the muscle is the proof. That global frame is wisdom from the concrete to the roof. And the game is pure knowledge that defines your every action. A strategic satisfaction for a chemical reaction. It's a blueprint for power, not just a simple acquisition. The formula for greatness, a scholarly position. Straight out university, yeah, the lessons in session. Straight out university.